My wife cheated on me with her boss, siphoned $250, $0 from our savings to fund their affair, then sued me for half our property after I found out and demanded I pay her $100, $0 in community assets. I never expected betrayal like this. I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here we are. My wife was the kind of woman who always knew how to hide her true colors. At first, everything seemed normal: happy marriage, good job, a lovely house. But over the last few months, I started noticing small things that didn't add up. She'd be on her phone more than usual, often sneaking off into the bedroom or bathroom with her phone hidden under her pillow. She'd come home late from work more frequently, claiming she was stuck in meetings or dealing with urgent projects. Looking back now, I realize I was blind to the signs. I wanted to believe she was just busy or stressed, but something felt off. Then, one night, I decided to check her phone. I know, trust and all that, but I was just curious. I found messages from her boss, Mark, that were just work-related. They were flirty, suggestive, talking about how much she wanted to see him and couldn't wait until they could be alone. I felt my stomach drop. I couldn't believe it. Had been cheating on me with her boss, Mark. That was just the beginning. I also noticed that our savings account had taken a huge hit. Around $250, $0 had vanished in the last 6 months. When I asked about it, she brushed it off, saying she'd invested in some business opportunity that was supposed to pay off soon. But I dug deeper. Turns out, she siphoned that money to fund her affair. I found bank statements and wire transfers showing she'd transferred large sums into accounts linked to Mark. The betrayal hit me hard. Not just the fact she cheated, but how cold and calculated she was about it. She lied about everything, making me doubt myself, accusing me of being paranoid or controlling. Meanwhile, she was out spending our savings on fancy dinners, hotel stays, and who knows what else with Mark. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All I could think about was how I'd trusted her, how she'd lied to my face, and how she'd stolen from us to fund her affair. Then came the worst part. One day told me she wanted a divorce, said I was holding her back and that she deserved happiness with Mark. I was stunned. How could she leave after everything? How could she just walk away with our money, our life? She even had the nerve to say she was entitled to half the property, claiming it was community assets. I never thought I'd be in this position, married to someone who could lie so easily, who could betray me so completely. That's when I decided I'd fight back. I started planning my revenge, figuring out how to make her pay for what she did. I didn't want her to walk away scot-free, spending our money and destroying what we had. I wanted her to see the consequences of her actions. It's not just about money, though. It's about respect, trust, and making her realize she can't get away with this kind of betrayal. I'll admit, I'm angry, hurt, and humiliated, but I also know I have to be smart. I need to take control of this mess and make her regret crossing me. That's how I got to this point. I never thought my life would turn into a story about betrayal like this, but here I am. And I'm not done yet. After I discovered everything, I didn't just sit around feeling sorry for myself or drowning in anger. No, I knew I had to act fast. Was out of town for a weekend conference, and I saw it as my chance to gather more evidence and set my plan in motion. I started digging through her stuff, going through her emails, her social media accounts, anything that could give me more proof of her affair and her financial dealings. I found even more disturbing things. She'd been meeting Mark at a hotel downtown, and there were receipts for expensive dinners, wine, and even gifts, things I never knew she wanted or liked. I also found emails where was talking about how she was planning to leave me with nothing, how she'd squeeze every penny out of the house, the savings, everything we had. That was when I realized her greed and selfishness went way beyond just cheating. She was planning to drain us completely, and I had to stop her. I decided to hire a private investigator. I wanted proof, real proof, that I could use in court if I needed to. It was a tough call, admitting I couldn't trust her, that I had to spy on my own wife, but I knew I couldn't just confront her without evidence. Within days, the pie caught her sneaking out of that hotel with Mark, and they even caught her in a hotel room together. I watched the footage, feeling sick. The woman I married, the woman I loved, she was with another man having sex, lying to my face about everything. At the same time, I was tracking the money. I got access to the bank accounts and found she'd transferred more than I thought. Another $50, $0 here, another $70, $0 there. She'd been siphoning our savings for months. I was furious. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and completely powerless. I kept thinking about how she had lied every step of the way, how she'd told me she was working late or at business meetings, while she was out screwing her boss and draining our life savings. I started to plan my next move. I knew I couldn't just confront her without a plan. I wanted her to see I was serious about protecting myself and our assets. First, I contacted a lawyer, someone who specialized in divorce and asset protection. I wanted to understand my rights, how to freeze accounts, and how to make sure she wouldn't walk away with everything. The lawyer told me I had a good case, especially since I had proof of her infidelity and financial misconduct. Meanwhile, I kept collecting evidence, screenshots of messages, bank statements, hotel receipts, everything. I knew I had to be meticulous. I didn't want to give her any room to wiggle out of it. I also started looking into how I could get her to pay for the betrayal, especially since she was threatening to sue me for half the property, claiming it was community assets. That was a lie, of course. I knew our prenup was airtight, but I had to prepare for her legal threats. One night, I finally confronted her over the phone. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the money, the lies. She tried to deny it, said I was paranoid and jealous, that Mark was just a colleague she was mentoring. I told her I had proof, that I'd seen her with Mark, that I knew she'd stolen from us. Her voice was icy, dismissive even. She said I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure, and that I should just accept that she was done with me. That moment, I realized she was completely detached from any sense of guilt or remorse. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. How could she be so callous? How could she betray me, lie to my face, then turn around and act like I was the problem? I knew I had to get her out of the house, protect what was left of our assets, and prepare for a legal fight. I wasn't going to let her walk away with a dime more than she deserved, especially after all she'd done. I decided I'd play her game, but I'd do it smarter, stronger. I'd make sure she paid for her lies and her betrayal. I spent the next few days working with my lawyer, preparing the paperwork and planning my next steps. I also started secretly documenting her movements, her conversations, everything. I knew she'd try to spin her story, make herself look innocent, but I wasn't going to let her. I had enough evidence to ruin her if I needed to. I was furious, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity, like I finally understood how deeply she'd betrayed me and how far I was willing to go to make her regret it. The day I decided to confront her directly, I knew I had to be careful. Was unpredictable, bitchy, manipulative, and she had a knack for turning things around on me. But I also knew I had the upper hand now. I had all the proof I needed, and I wasn't going to let her gaslight me anymore. I arranged to meet her at the house that evening, pretending everything was normal. I wanted her to come home, thinking I was just going to talk calmly, but I was ready for her reaction. When she walked in, her face was a mixture of annoyance and that fake smile she always wore when she was hiding something. I didn't waste time. I pulled out my phone and played her the hotel footage, the bank transfers, the messages. Her eyes widened, then narrowed as she realized I wasn't bluffing. She tried to brush it off, calling it a misunderstanding, just work stuff or nothing serious. But I cut her off. I told her I knew about the affair with Mark, how she'd been siphoning money from our savings, and that I had everything documented. Her face twisted into a sneer. "You're overreacting, Dave. You're just jealous. Mark's just a friend and you're paranoid. You always accuse me of things I haven't done." She lied so smoothly, like she was reading from a script. I could see her trying to control her emotions, trying to pretend she was the victim. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I didn't want her to deny it. She'd already lied enough, and that I was done being played for a fool. That's when she got really bitchy. She started screaming at me, claiming I was a terrible husband, that I never paid enough attention to her, that I was controlling. She threw in some classic lines: "You're just insecure. You don't understand women," and my favorite, "You're lucky I even stayed with you this long." She looked me dead in the eyes and said she was leaving, taking half the property, and if I tried to stop her, she'd sue me for everything I had. That's when I saw her true colors. The woman I once loved was just a manipulative, selfish bitch who only cared about herself. She lied, cheated, stolen our money, and now she was trying to turn the tables and make me look like the bad guy. I felt a boiling rage inside, but I kept my cool. I told her she'd crossed a line, that she'd have to answer for her actions, and that I was prepared to fight her in court. I knew I needed to act fast. I called my lawyer right then and there, handed him all the evidence, and told him to prepare for a legal battle. I also contacted a forensic accountant to trace every dollar she'd stolen, to make sure I could recover what she'd taken. I was furious, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about standing up for myself, making her realize she couldn't just walk away with everything she wanted. In that moment, I realized I'd been naive for so long. I'd trusted her, believed her lies, and let her manipulate me. But now I saw her for what she really was, a selfish, manipulative woman who had no regard for the vows we made or the life we built together. I didn't want her to get away with it. I wasn't going to let her destroy what was left of our marriage, not without a fight. I was done being the victim. From now on, I was going to be the one in control. The legal process moved faster than I expected. Once I handed over all the evidence, my lawyer got to work immediately. He warned me that would try to manipulate the situation, spin her story, and probably try to claim she was the victim. But I had everything: text messages, bank transfers, hotel receipts, even the private investigator's footage. I felt confident that I had a solid case, especially since she'd openly lied and stolen from us. Meanwhile, was staying at her sister's place, playing the victim in her own twisted mind. She kept calling, trying to gaslight me, insisting she was innocent and that I was just jealous or paranoid. She claimed Mark was just a friend, that she never cheated, and that I was blowing things out of proportion. She even had the nerve to say I was controlling because I checked her phone and bank accounts. That was the moment I knew she was a master manipulator, and I had to stay strong. The day the divorce papers were filed, I made sure to include detailed claims about her infidelity, theft, and her attempt to claim half our property. My lawyer advised me to also seek a restraining order, just in case she tried to manipulate or intimidate me further. I agreed. I didn't want her anywhere near me or our assets. I also started working on recovering the money she stole, hiring forensic accountants to trace every dollar. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, not just emotionally but financially as well. As the court date approached, began to panic. I could tell she was trying to come up with some kind of counterattack, perhaps to deny everything or spin her own version of events. But I had the evidence and I was ready. I knew she'd try to blame me for everything, call me jealous or insecure, but I did care. I had proof of her affair, her theft, and her lies. I was prepared to fight for every cent, every piece of our life she tried to destroy. The day of the hearing, I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. I sat there in court, watching her try to look innocent, but her eyes kept darting around, knowing her lies were exposed. My lawyer presented our case, showing all the evidence of her infidelity, the stolen money, and her attempts to claim assets she had no right to. The judge listened carefully, and I could see the wheels turning. I knew I had a strong case. In the end, the court awarded me full custody of the house and ordered to pay back the stolen money plus additional damages for emotional distress and breach of marriage vows. She was furious, screaming and crying, but there was nothing she could do. She had lied, cheated, and stolen from us, and the court saw right through her. The judge also issued a restraining order, barring her from contacting me or coming near my property. While I felt victorious, I also felt exhausted. All the anger, betrayal, and stress had taken a toll, but I knew I had done the right thing. I took my time to process everything, to understand what I'd been through. I realized how naive I'd been to trust her so blindly. I learned that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest. But I also learned that standing up for myself, fighting back, and refusing to be a victim is the only way to regain control. Now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started therapy, working on my self-esteem, and trying to move past the pain. The betrayal still stings, but I refuse to let it define me. If there's one thing I've learned from all this, it's that you have to be careful who you trust, and sometimes the biggest act of revenge is simply picking yourself up and moving on stronger than before. I hope sharing this might help someone else see the warning signs early or find the strength to fight back when they're betrayed. After everything was settled legally, I thought I'd finally get some peace, but the aftermath hit me hard in ways I didn't expect. Was gone, out of my life, and I was left with the wreckage of what once was. The house I built with her, the savings I thought were secure, all of it gone or tainted by her greed and lies. I started doing a lot of reflecting, trying to piece together how I let it get this far, how I missed all the signs that she was capable of such betrayal. The first thing I did was clean out the house. I changed the locks, got rid of anything that reminded me of her, and started making plans to move forward. I knew I couldn't stay in that house, not after everything, too many memories, too much pain. I found a small apartment nearby and moved in, trying to rebuild my sense of normalcy. It was a fresh start, but it was also bitter. Every corner, every piece of furniture seemed to whisper the lies and betrayal I'd endured. I also made a conscious decision to cut her completely out of my life. No contact, no messages, no emails. I wanted nothing from her, no closure, no last words. I realized that trying to reason with her or get closure from her would only keep me stuck in the past. Instead, I focused on healing myself. I threw myself into work, took up hobbies I'd neglected, and started seeing a therapist. That helped more than I expected. I needed to process the pain, the anger, and the betrayal without letting it consume me. Financially, I was still recovering. The court ordered to pay back the stolen money, but I knew it wouldn't be enough to truly make me whole. I had to find ways to rebuild what I'd lost. I started saving again, slowly but surely, and I set up a new investment account. I was determined not to let her greed ruin me entirely. I also decided to be more cautious with whom I trusted. That betrayal had shattered and I realized I had to be smarter about relationships and money from now on. One unexpected thing happened. Over time, I started to see the bigger picture. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it also made me more aware of what I valued. I learned to recognize red flags earlier, to pay attention to the little things that matter in a relationship. I also found strength I didn't know I had. The experience taught me that I could survive the worst, that I could pick myself up and move forward even after being completely broken. I won't lie, there are days when I still feel the sting of what she did. There are moments I wonder if I'll ever fully trust someone again, but I also know I'm stronger now. The betrayal changed me, but not in a bad way. It made me more cautious, yes, but also more resilient. I've come to accept that some people are just capable of terrible things, and that's on them, not on me. Looking back, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner, but I also realize that sometimes you only learn the hard way. My biggest lesson is that you can't control other people's actions, only how you respond to them. And I choose to respond with strength, integrity, and a firm commitment to never let someone betray me like that again. I hope my story serves as a warning and a reminder to stay vigilant, to trust wisely, and to fight for yourself no matter how deep the betrayal runs. Now, sitting here months after everything fell apart, I realize how much this whole ordeal changed me. I used to believe in fairy tale endings, that love and trust would always see us through. But betrayal like this, it shatters those illusions fast. Still, I've learned that even after the deepest wounds, you can rebuild. Not just your house or your bank account, but your sense of self. I've come to understand that people show you who they really are when the chips are down. Actions revealed her true character: selfish, manipulative, greedy. I won't lie, I was naive to think she was different, but now I see clearly. Trust has to be earned, and it's fragile. I don't regret loving her, but I do regret ignoring the signs that pointed to her true nature. The most important lesson I've taken from all this is that revenge isn't about hate or destruction. It's about justice and reclaiming your power. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done, but what I really gained was a renewed sense of independence. I learned that I don't need someone else's approval or love to feel complete. I need to be whole on my own, to stand tall despite the pain. If there's any advice I could give to someone in a similar situation, it's this: don't ignore the red flags, trust your instincts. And when betrayal happens, don't be afraid to fight for what's rightfully yours. It's not just about the money or the property, it's about respect, dignity, and your own peace of mind. Take back control of your life, no matter how broken it feels at first. I also want to say that healing takes time. Some days are better than others. Some nights the pain still feels fresh. But gradually the hurt becomes a part of your story, not the whole story. You learn to carry it without letting it define you. I've found new purpose, new hope, and a new outlook. Most importantly, I've come to accept that betrayal can teach you hard lessons, but it doesn't have to destroy you. It can make you stronger, more cautious, more aware. And when you finally stand up and say enough is enough, you realize that you're capable of far more than you ever believed. That's what I want anyone reading this to take away. Life can throw you into the worst storms, but you always have the power to find your calm again, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever comes next.